Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome into our webinar today. A few people joining in. We'll just give everyone a little couple of minutes to get themselves logged in and oriented and get the audio going. While we do give everyone those couple of minutes, I'll put a poll up, and it would be great if I could have everyone respond onto that poll. And it's just asking, how familiar are you with AVETMISS reporting? So a few different options there. Oh, good. Got a few first timers who feel like they're newbies. Good to see. Welcome everyone as you're coming in. So just as you come in and get your audio going, please respond on the poll we've got on the screen there. How familiar are you with AVETMISS reporting? We'll just give everyone a couple minutes to get themselves into the meeting before we actually launch in and get going. I think maybe we'll go 3:33 or at 33 past we'll get going. Oh, there we go. It just rolled around. Let's check. There's still a few more people jumping in, so maybe we'll just do one more minute. 34 past. We'll crack on. So as you jump into the meeting, we've got a poll on the screen. How familiar are you with AVETMISS reporting? Would love to know. Go ahead and give us your answer. And just one more minute till we actually go ahead and get started. Okay, the people joining slowed down a bit there. Maybe we will go ahead. I'll maybe end the poll so that we can see the results. So it looks like majority of people on the call today feeling pretty new. I'm a newbie and this is my first time ever. So welcome in. This is definitely geared toward you. There's a bit in this presentation that will hopefully demystify a little bit and give you some good orientation into AVETMISS reporting. I've done it before, but in a different student management system. So a few people on that end of the spectrum. So this will have some new elements for you, and hopefully some of the, I guess, AVETMISS theory is something you're familiar with. And I've got a few responses there on I am confident and just want to check my knowledge. So hopefully this is the knowledge check you need to feel double confident when you walk away. All right. I'll just close that poll down now and we'll go ahead and get started. Firstly, welcome into the webinar today. Thank you for taking your time to attend. My name is Hayley Zeinstra. Just to introduce myself, I'm seeing a few familiar names there on the attendees list, but if I haven't met you before, lovely to have you joining us today. And I've got my colleague Mark who's on the call as well. So he'll just be helping moderate and who knows, maybe he'll be able to chime in with some helpful information as we go through as well. All right, enough from us. If you haven't used GoToWebinar or joined us on a webinar before, just to align you with the platform, you can ask a question through the session today. In the top right corner of your screen, there'll be a little question mark icon. Go ahead and click on that. When you do, it'll open a little panel on that right-hand side of your screen. Did I say left? I might have got that mixed up. um, it'll open on the right-hand side of your screen, and at the bottom right corner, you'll be able to type in your question and submit that through. So if you feel like you've got questions as we're going today, don't hesitate to let us know, and Mark will help me work through those. Actually, I'm having a quick look there. Yes, we will send out a recording after the session, and it is recorded. So feel free to not have a pen and paper in hand and take notes. You can go back and watch it again later. All right, let's kick in. So if you have done AVETMISS reporting, or if you're brand new to AVETMISS reporting and you've overseen many data submissions, by the end of today, the aim is that you will feel confident and have some clarity on issuing and running your AVETMISS reporting out of the eSkilled system. So I thought we should start with AVETMISS basics. So for everyone who said you're a newbie, hopefully this is really helpful. Starting with what is AVETMISS. So it is an acronym, and this is what it stands for. I've got it on the screen there. So you've got your Australian Vocational Education and Training Management Information Statistical Standard. That's the last time I'm going to say the full thing out. AVETMISS is much shorter. But what it is essentially the national standard for reporting your training data. So that's what we're essentially here talking about today. As for who is collecting that data, there's two main parties who might be collecting this from you. The first one that I've got on screen here is the National Centre for Vocational Education Research, or NCVER, or NCEVER. Some people say that acronym differently. Essentially, they're collecting that from you to track trends. They want a bit of a holistic understanding of training in Australia and how it's going, what the feedback is, and what's happening. The other party who might collect that AVETMISS information from you would be state or territory governments. Now, they'll want it for slightly different reasons. They're essentially paying for the training. So for them, they want to monitor the progress and the success and the outcomes of that training that is delivered. So those are the two who's in the zoo, so to speak. And today's session will focus a little more on the national submission. So if you do have any specific questions, particularly if it's on a state or a territory submission, I'll share the details again later, but certainly encourage you to ask any questions towards our support team as well. Alrighty. In terms of AVETMISS basics, when and what are the deadlines? So the reporting opened in January, January 1st, I believe, and goes through until end of February. So you've got the dates on the screen there, end of February 2025. And the data that you would be reporting on over this period is last year. So all of the training data from 2024 is essentially what is going into your AVETMISS reporting that you'll be submitting very soon if you haven't already. Okie dokie. Now, you can submit quarterly, which the two main benefits I've got on the bottom of the slide there would be updating the USI transcript for students more frequently, so that if you've got a student base who are referencing their USI transcripts, that it's updated more often. And then the other benefit there would be to yourselves as a training provider, that since you are submitting your data more frequently and going through the errors more frequently, that by the time we come to the end of year submission, there's not as much for you to work on or resolve because you've been looking at it quarterly as you go. Now, those quarterly submissions are what we call cumulative. So you can see there, say in June, if you're submitting in quarter 2, that's going to include all data from January through to June. So what that essentially means is that all RTOs are going to have to do a submission at the end of the year for the annual collection, even if you have been submitting quarterly. So for anyone who has been doing quarterly, this end of year one is still a requirement for you too. Now let's talk about what that AVETMISS reporting actually captures. So some of those key components from the data, you've got student information. So it's going to include who's studying, sort of from a statistical perspective. So age brackets, genders, prior education level of people doing education. It will include the course and the unit information, so the details of what they've actually been studying in 2024. It will include delivery and outcome details. So that's going to be the training dates, the delivery modes, all the information about what was actually delivered by you. And then if it is a submission to state or territory, it would also include funding information and potentially employer details as well if that's a apprenticeship or traineeship. So that's what is essentially in that reporting. So when it comes to reporting itself, what does it look like? So the AVETMISS data is downloaded or exported as a zip folder. If you don't know what a zip folder is, it's right there on the screen. That icon's from a Windows computer. I don't know if it does look different on a Mac computer, but that's what you'll be looking for, is your little folder with a zipper on it. And when we talk about a zip file, if you're not tech savvy and not something you've come across before, it's essentially a file that has reduced size, and it makes the files within it smaller and easier to share. So it's a special type of folder that is compressed in size. So that's essentially what we're talking about there. This is what is inside the zip folder. So within that folder, you've got what we call the text files, and they have the data on them. And these files are often called NAT files or NAT files, and that's just because of the naming convention there. You can see they all have NAT at the front. So it's broken down into different files, and that's because they all have slightly different topics or pieces of the data within them. So as an example, I'll just do the first one there, which is the, might call it NAT 10, and that's the training organization file. So that's going to hold information relating to your RTO. So your RTO name, your RTO number, the address, the contact person is what you'll find in that particular file. So it can be just helpful to have a general overview of what is in each one. So there's the other half of the files. So these might be a handy reference to go back to just to give yourself a picture of what's in which particular file within that folder. And for our newbies, it may be helpful to actually see what those files look like when you open them. So this is what you would see if you opened it up. And I guess it can look a little overwhelming. So be gentle on yourself. It is binary because it's designed to be read by a computer and not by a human. So if you think it looks a little confusing, there's a bit of a formula to it, but yeah, it is designed for computers to read, not for our human eyes. So it's not very visually appealing, but it does have all the essential data inside it. All right, that covers off the basics. And I guess what we'll launch into now would be the steps that you would go through for your AVETMISS data submission. I'm just having a quick glance over at the questions list, and I haven't seen anything else pop through there. So I think we'll go ahead and jump in and get started. Hopefully those basics aligned everyone and gave you a bit of a picture of what we're trying to achieve and what's in those AVETMISS files. So I've got a little bit of a step-by-step here. And step one, I won't be touching on today. I hope you've all been doing it already with your eSkilled platform, and that's putting in student data and enrollment information. So hopefully throughout last year, you've been accepting enrollments, information's been going in, potentially students have been enrolled, they've commenced their training, perhaps even completed the training. So that's what we are going to essentially be reporting on in our AVETMISS reporting. So if you have any questions or concerns around that part, feel free to let us know if you feel like you might need some training on how to put things in there. But that is what I'm expecting you already have. And now we want to get that information back out of the system. So once you've got information in there, that next step would be actually generating those AVETMISS NAT files. So I'm just going to drag across a screen and jump into the system. I thought I had it open, but I apparently lost it in the shuffle of tabs. Here we go. So hopefully this is a familiar site to everybody. This is just our test site on the eSkilled SMS platform. So the first step would be navigating on the left side of your page, down here to your administration menu item. And once you click on that, that's one of our accordion menu items. So you can see it opens some more items underneath it. And we want to click on settings. So we'll go ahead and do that. And once you're here, usually you have your logo sitting here in the center of the page. Mine seems to go missing. But essentially it will be just right underneath your logo, the very first button here on your page that says AVETMISS. So you just go ahead and click on that and we'll get our little AVETMISS pop-up that comes up on the screen. Alrighty, so once we've got that up, the first thing you've got is the start and end date for the data that you're going to download or export out of the system. And it's sitting on the current year, and we're now scarily in 2025. So we need to change that back to 2024 because generally speaking, that's the period that you want to be reporting for at the minute. So if you just click on that first field, you can see the calendar pops up. And if you come over to the year 2025, we can take that back to 2024 and just click on the 1st of January. And then we'll want to also do the same with the end date there. So we'll click on that, send us back to 2024, and we want the 31st of December, last day of the year. All done. Next field there we've got is the type, and that's who you are submitting your data to. So for the most part, that's probably national to NCVER. As I mentioned earlier, it could be, if you have state-funded training, that you would be selecting your relevant state from the list here. I'm just going to keep my example as the national option. If you are exporting this for national submission, you won't need to do anything at the next step here with the funding filters. That's really only applicable if you have changed this to one of the states. And what you're doing with those funding filters is each state and territory, they all have their own unique requirements with the data format for the AVETMISS reporting. And essentially, depending on the filters you select there, that will adjust or alter how the format of the file that is downloaded is actually filled in. So you might need to use those filters to make sure that your data output meets the state-funded body requirements. So if you have any questions or concerns specifically around your funding filters, we won't cover that in too much detail today, but if you have questions, maybe drop us in the chat and we can reach out to you to discuss the relevant state that might be applicable in your case. If you are doing national though, this is it. You're done. Your 1st of January 24, 31st of December 2024, type national, click export. Give it a little second to think. So we'll just download that zip file that we talked about earlier. Shouldn't take too long. Oh, just ask me if I want to switch my microphone. Oh, the whole thing kicked me out.
Haley, we lost your camera too, but we can hear you. And we
Thank
can
you.
see the screen. Sorry.
That's good. I'm glad. Must have just been my connectivity on the USB connecting those devices maybe. I'm back. Did my report export? I lost that in the kerfuffle. I'll click it again. I don't know that it did.
Yeah, it did.
Oh, good. For those watching, well done. I wasn't. I was too busy watching my own face disappear. There you go. So you can see I'm using Google Chrome. That's just gone here into my download manager. So it's got that little zip icon. The file itself is called AVETMISS. It's got 18 in brackets because I've downloaded 18 different AVETMISS files. So it's just appending that at the end so that it can distinguish files that have the same name. So if you've only downloaded it once, it will just be called AVETMISS. Each subsequent time you keep downloading it, if you haven't renamed your files, it'll just stick another number at the back there. But that is it. Job done there. I think we can go back to slides and we'll just get a little bit of a summary of what we just did, which is essentially downloading the files in that zip format. So we went to administration, we clicked on settings, we clicked on the AVETMISS button, we had the little pop-up where we set up our filters there, and then you can download that file into your download manager. Alrighty. Moving along, that's part 2 done. So we've generated the file now. Now we want to validate it. And when we validate the AVETMISS NAT files, we actually do that in a slightly different software. So that is done on what we call AVETMISS Validation Software, or AVS, it's commonly abbreviated to as well. So I've got a little slide there, but what I might actually do again is drag a screen over and take you through it live. And then we can go back to those as a bit of a recap. All right, so this is the URL or the website you want to be at, and a lot of information to read there. You do need to register yourself for an account. So you've got the little register button there. Go ahead and click on that if you don't already have login details. There's sort of 2 registration buttons here. I think most of you will need to do the first one because you need an account for your RTO. So if you haven't already, or you don't already have one, go ahead and do that. It was really quick for me, but I'm not with an RTO. I'm here in the self-registering external users. So I think there's probably a few extra pieces of information they need from you if you are registering an RTO. Once you've got login credentials, username, password, and sign in. And welcome to the AVS homepage, I suppose. All right, not too much to orient yourself with in here, and I'll just be drawing your attention to the important parts and the buttons that you'll need to be aware of to go through the process of validating your files. So the first one we start with is actually here in the center of the page, the blue button for new collection. So we've got a new set of files that we've just exported out of eSkilled, and that's what we're going to be working with. We've got some collection details to configure here. Firstly, we've got the year that you are reporting for. So for us, again, make sure you select 2024. And then in terms of your period, we're going to go for the full period, January through to December. Alrighty. Now that we've selected, we got some more options down here. Primarily, add files is what we're going to work with. And we'll go ahead and click on that. Should bring up your little download manager. there's my AVETMISS 18 that I just downloaded earlier. I'm going to select that and choose that. So what you just want to make sure is that it does add the file to the list here. That's all it's doing at this stage. You've just selected the file that you would like to use. Once it's selected, you need to come here and click Upload Files. And if this is the first time you are putting a file in, I don't think you would get this confirmation pop-up. This is asking me if I want to replace existing data. So in the past, I have already uploaded a different data set, and what this is asking me now is just to confirm that yes, I do want to overwrite that with my new set. Excellent. Oh wow, I did a good set because looks like that's all uploaded. It went very quickly, but you can check the status there. And now we've got the blue button here, and we want to actually validate those files that we've selected, uploaded. Now we're validating. So let's click that. And again, you can watch that status as it moves through the phases of validation. It's having a think. It shouldn't take too long to process. There we go. The font changed. Ah, here we go. I've got some errors. And that's okay. That's what we were expecting to sort of get. And essentially, we've done our validation process now. And in due course, we've found that we do have some errors. I'll just pull that away and roll back to our slides again. So just to recap what we did, and there are screen grabs here in the slides. So if you come back, you don't have to watch the whole video. You can look through the files. But you need to register and log in to AVS or AVETMISS Validation Software. You want to click the button there for a new collection. Configure the year and then also the period that you're reporting for. So it's going to be 2024. It's going to be January to December. Go searching your computer where you downloaded those AVETMISS NAT files or the zip file. Upload that. Confirm if you had previously uploaded files there that you do want to overwrite them with the new ones. And then finally validate and just make sure that the status actually goes through the motions and it validates the information in there. Yes, it did take a few moments, so keep that in mind. And then we get to this point here. So we've now validated our files. Obviously, the next thing we want to do is find out some more information about those errors. And so that's what step 4 will be. We'll go back to AVS and I'll show you how you can download the detailed error report. And probably a few other ways that you can view information about those errors too, because once you've identified that you have some, that's primarily your goal, is to go through and fix them and get rid of them. All right.
Haley, sorry to put you on the spot.
No, go for it.
Someone asked that it looks like our system may need some support, as when we generated the NAT files, it only completed the NAT 10 file.
Oh,
So if that happens, what would you normally recommend?
I actually haven't seen that happen before. I firstly would question, if we go back to step 1 being put student
Yeah,
data in, have
yeah,
you definitely got some data in there? I assume you do. And then I would
yeah.
look at probably where
Whether
we were
it's
selecting the
accredited or
dates.
something.
You'd probably just want to
Yeah,
make sure you've selected 2025, 4, sorry, you want to go back. It's going to default to 2025, but we actually want data from 2024. Failing those two troubleshooting tips off the top of head, I would reach out to the support team. And actually, I think,
yeah,
Mark, that was another more technical aspect you identified there, that maybe there's a setup error where it's been flagged as not vet training. If it's flagged as not vet, it won't be included in the AVETMISS reporting. So it may just be
Thanks,
a little
Hayley.
setup issue. Gorgeous. All right. Well, let's
Yeah.
kick on. We've got our validation with errors. How do we get the detailed error report? So the button I want to draw your attention to is at the bottom of the table. There's 3 here. It's the middle one, export details. We want as many details as possible. You can export a summary. Oh, sorry, it's scrolling for me automatically. You can export summary, but it doesn't drill in and give you the exact records where the errors are located. So, it's sort of top level. The other thing you can do, you can actually click here on the status where it now says that there is an error. It will give you a description of what that error is and how many times it does occur. And then you can click on that number to sort of see some more information about that error too. But rather than, if you've got more than one error, going into multiple screens and looking at multiple different things, that can all get a bit confusing. I always recommend export details, and what that will do, great, I've got quite a few records, but it's only going to take a minute. Yes, I will wait. It's virtually instant. And this is what you're looking for. So detailed report, it's an Excel file that's going to download same way that our zip file did. And look, if you are stuck with the errors, then this is where we definitely call in on our support team for some help so that they can help interpret that. I'll jump over here back to our slides and just go through the quick recap of what we just did there. So we wanted to highlight that export details button. Yes, you do want to confirm and wait the 1 minute or longer that it may take to put that together. This is what it's going to look like once you open that Excel file. So fairly stock standard for an Excel file, full of really rich information, and that's what our support team will need behind them to help you figure out, if you can't do it yourself, based on the descriptions in the file there, what's actually the error and how to resolve that. So that's good. We've got to step 4 from our process now. We've downloaded the detailed error report, and now we're moving to error resolution as our next phase. So I think before you can resolve them, you also need to know how to interpret that Excel file as well. So let's go through a little more detail on that. And as I said earlier, definitely recommend reaching out to our support team if you get to this step and you're figuring out that it's a bit scary or you're a bit stuck and you're not sure what to do. And then attach your detailed error report, and then they should be really efficiently able to help you because they'll have all the information they need to help identify where those problems might be. So a few, I would say, basics to help you orient yourself and get started is, I guess it would be called column C, has your error type, and it's got 2 main options that you see there, E for error or W for warning. And you want to focus on any that have the E or the error because you cannot submit your files until you resolve all the errors. So those will be your priority. And then hand in hand with being an error, you get an error description, and that's going to explain what the error is. And for the most part, they're fairly straightforward once you read it, but if you are confused, lean on the support team for some assistance to figure out what it's actually requiring from you. If I just pick the one on the top of the list here, is that what I do in the next grab? No, I'll just go back. That says training organization identifier, and then I guess that would be a RTO number and name, eSkilled SMS. In combination, do not match any RTO listed on training.gov.au, which is expected because we are not a registered RTO. So that's why when we put it through the validation software, it's telling us that our RTO number and RTO name don't match. But if this was you, you'd just want to go to those fields and double check that what you've got saved in those is actually correct. All right, we've also highlighted here the file ID and the file name, which we spoke about earlier in the webinar, just highlighting that each of those IDs have different information held within them on the different topics or areas. So that NAT 10, the first one was your training organization information. So if you've got a NAT 10 error, it's an error about you as an RTO and your details. So that can be a bit of a hint where you might need to go in eSkilled to fix the information that is wrong. So yeah, on your settings page where you've got your RTO details filled in, that's probably where you need to look. What's this? Another example I've highlighted there. This is a training organization delivery location. It's letting them know that the address of the suburb or the town can't be blank. So somehow when you've been setting up your locations in this example, you forgot to put the address suburb into the address field. So you would need to just go back to your, again, account settings, look at your locations and go from there. So just sort of putting the pieces together, how knowing a little bit about different pieces can really help you understand and interpret what could be in the error report so that you can work your way through it. And then with that example I just gave on locations, now further across the document, because of course this screen grab's only got A, B, C, D, and then I guess this is E. We're now looking at F, G, H, so further over the Excel document. It will also give you the training organization delivery location identifier, and that would be your name that you've given that location in the system. So there's plenty of information in that exported detailed report to help us help you figure out where is something gone wrong. Another one that's handy to know, if you see client identifier in the spreadsheet, that essentially means student ID number. So that means you could look up that student in your students list, and if the error was something basic like date of birth is wrong, you can sort of go and figure that out from there. I don't think that's one that you would get actually, but just to point out what that information actually is showing you, client identifier, that would be your student ID number. All right. So that takes us through the step 5 of resolving any errors or looking through the error report and figuring out what are the errors that you have, how are you going to solve those. Definitely lean on our support team there. I know that there can be a lot in there that you might not have seen before. You don't know how to fix it. We don't expect you to know that, out of the gates. And so that's what our support team is really equipped to help you with. All right. That looks like, in theory, let's pretend we've now resolved all our errors. We're up to the last step, number 6, final submission. What will you do there? Your status will turn to validated for every single file when you have resolved all the errors. So I won't be able to do this with the collection that I had up because obviously I've still got lots of errors to fix. So what you're looking for is essentially all of those error messages will no longer be there because you've fixed them, and then you'll be left with one that looks like this. The status is validated. And what you'll notice too is that you can click the Finalize Submission button. When you do that, there's a few additional fields it will have you fill in. If you do want to add a comment, just highlighting there is a Save As button and another button down here specifically to save the comment. So you might want to double check and ensure that you've saved it if there is something you want to add with the submission. Otherwise, it's fairly straightforward. Your name should be pre-filled based on what you registered your name as when you signed up for the account. You just need to fill in your position at the organization and then submit and save comment if you did have one. And that would be it. At that point, you're done. You've got rid of all the errors and you've submitted your final data. You should get a little receipt, I think, via email when you do that, or you would have, your on-screen confirmation that that has been submitted as well. So keep an eye out for that. Probably just handy to make sure that you do see that to be 100% sure that it definitely went in, went through, got submitted. But yeah, thank you. I don't have a question slide. That is everything that was on the agenda today. So essentially took us through those 6 steps on a bit of the basics of AVETMISS, generating those files, how to validate them, how to export a detailed error report if you do have errors, and then the final submission once you've resolved all of those errors. That's essentially everything that you need to go through before the end of February so that you can submit your 2024 data and meet your reporting obligations. I'm coming over to check out our little questions box. Looks like Mark has been busy killing some questions in there. Thank you so much for your help there, Mark. Was there anything, Mark, that you think I could address or touch on verbally that people have been asking in the question section, or are they all a little more specific?
It was just the last one was probably a pretty good one to
Okay.
relay.
Yeah, good. Because I don't think these comments are public that everyone can see. So
Oh,
when you
I'm sorry.
oh no,
I
that's
probably
okay.
should have made them public.
All good. They could be. I just think from memory, I don't think they are. But the question anyhow was when you export error data and fix the errors, you would start the process again and add the NAT files and validate and submit from there. And yes, that's right. So obviously, if you've downloaded a file that has errors in it, you would go right back to exporting that zip file from eSkilled again once you've changed things in eSkilled. So like if your RTO number was incorrect, as one of those little examples was, you'd go into the eSkilled system, change it, put the right number in there, and then export the data again so that when you do your second data or AVETMISS export, it has the correct RTO number in your file that second time.
I think also they complete lots of errors at once. So often when you fix one error, you probably fix 10 errors at once.
Mm,
If you have 10 units, so I wouldn't worry too much if there's a few errors. It's not going to be one at a time generally.
yeah, that's true. They're often interrelated. So yeah, if your address is wrong for delivery and you enrolled 20 students to do the training at that delivery location, you would expect to see 20 errors, one error for every student telling you that their delivery location is got an error and it is wrong. So when you fix that one error for the delivery location, yeah, you could potentially be solving error for 20 students and it was just one little thing in the system. So very true. Um, are we able to get the slides? Yes, I will share the slides after the session. And if you have qualifications or skill sets that you no longer use and are also superseded, do you need to worry about them? I think the answer to that is if you no longer use them and you no longer have students enrolled actively who are completing that training, they're not going to show up in your AVETMISS data because there won't be any training activity for 2024 against those old superseded quals. Um, But if you do still have, if you're still teaching out and there are students in there that could be actively finishing it off, then yes, you would expect that to report for the probably last time in your 2024 data because they should have been rolled over into the new version or completed it within that teach out period. Hope that answers the question there.
Good answer,
Lee.
Haley. Good answer.
Oh, good. We were aligned.
100%.
Lovely. No
No more
problem.
questions.
You're welcome. Yeah, I
I
might
think we're
leave it
good.
there. If anybody else does think of a question later, I know that always happens. Definitely, if I roll my slides over. Um, oh, actually, if I copy paste that, do I have the ability to do that while I'm in? No, of course not. Would be great if you can leave us some feedback. I think that goes out via email after the session as well. So if this was helpful, or if you think there's anything we missed that could have been useful to learn, really open to some feedback and any comments you might have. And this is a slide I wanted to bring up. If you're sitting there with questions or specific questions about your data and you want some help, don't hesitate to reach out to our support team and open a support ticket with them. So just reach out via email. Hopefully you can use what we did today to export that detailed error report for them so that they can be of most use to you and help you figure out what's causing that error and how you can fix it. And yeah, if you have any other general questions that you think of after sitting in the meeting today, feel free to reach out because we're here to help and help you get through error free in time for the end of the reporting period. So don't forget that's end of February. You've got to have it all tidied up and done. All right. Well, thank you for joining us today, everybody. And we'll see you for the next one, I hope. Take care and enjoy your afternoons.
You guys.